Okay, so what in the world could a Beethoven symphony possibly have in common with a Bob Dylan song? I mean, really think about it. One is this massive, formal, written out masterpiece. The other is raw, simple, born out of a totally different tradition. It feels like they're from completely different musical planets. But what if I told you they're both speaking the same secret language, that they share a hidden blueprint? Well, that's what we're going to find out. So let's just set the stage for a second. You've got classical music on one side, born in fancy churches and royal courts, and then you have folk music, literally the music of the folks, coming from fields and pubs and front porches. For ages, we've kind of treated these as two completely separate, even opposite worlds. And yeah, when you really get down to it, the differences seem huge. Classical music is all about the written score, right? Super complex notation, crafted by a known genius like Beethoven. But folk music, that's an oral tradition. It's learned by listening, passed down from person to person, generation to generation. I mean, who wrote Barbara Allen? Nobody knows. The community is the composer, shaping the song over hundreds of years. So you've got to wonder, right? Are they really just polar opposites, or is there some kind of fundamental blueprint, a shared musical DNA that our ears just recognize, no matter what we're listening to? Well, the answer is a big, resounding yes. There is a secret blueprint, and that blueprint's the thing that connects Beethoven to Bob Dylan and just about everything in between is form. It's the hidden architecture that makes music make sense to our brains. So what exactly is form? Put simply, it's the shape of a piece of music. It's the plan. Imagine trying to build a house without blueprint. You'd just have a pile of wood and nails. Well, that's music without form. Just a random jumble of sounds. Form is what gives it structure and guides us from the beginning to the end. And the craziest thing is, this whole grand idea is built on just three simple things that we all crave as humans. First, you've got repetition. Let's call it A. This is the hook, the catchy melody that gets stuck in your head. But then you get bored, so you need contrast, section B, something totally new to shake things up. And finally, the real magic, variation, or A prime. You bring back that familiar idea, but you change it a little. And that's it. Pretty much all music is just a creative game of mixing and matching these three things. All right, let's dive into our first world and see how this plays out. In classical music, composers took these simple building blocks and went to town, creating these incredible, sprawling structures. A perfect example is sonata form. Now, the name sounds kind of stuffy, but trust me, it's basically a three-act movie. First, in the exposition, you meet the main characters, the musical themes. Then comes the development. This is the adventure part, where the themes get tangled up, they fight, they get transformed. And finally, you have the recapitulation, where the main themes return home. They're recognizable, but they've been through something, they've changed. It gives you this incredibly satisfying feeling of resolution. And this quote from cellist David Ying just nails it. He says it's all about the sort of constant conflict between repeating something that you know or changing it. That's what's so powerful. Sonata form isn't just a dry structure, it's the drama of that very human choice played out in sound. Okay, so now let's jump over to that other world, folk music. It might seem way simpler on the surface, but you're about to see the exact same principles of form at work, just for a totally different reason. Here, the most common structure is called strophic form, and it's as simple as it sounds. You have one piece of music, a melody, some chords, and you just repeat it over and over and over. The only thing that changes is the words. It's basically a series of verses. This is the bedrock of almost every folk song, and pop song for that matter. So why is this super simple repeating form so powerful? Well, think about it. For one, it's easy to remember, which is absolutely crucial if you're passing songs down by ear. But even more important, the repetition of the music puts all the focus on the one thing that is changing, the lyrics. The form becomes this reliable, steady canvas, and the singer gets to paint a different part of the story on it with each verse. It's all about the story. All right, so we've seen a really complex form and a really simple one. But what happens when you smash them together? For that, we have to turn to jazz, the ultimate world where structure and freedom aren't enemies, they're partners. Jazz is famous for improvisation, right? Making music up on the spot. But it's not a free-for-all. It's not chaos. The real magic of jazz is this tension between a preset form, a shared roadmap that every musician in the band knows by heart, and the spontaneous, creative conversation they have on top of that map. You simply can't have one without the other. A classic jazz roadmap is the AAB song form. It's a 32-bar cycle, and look, it's built with our old friends repetition and contrast. You play the main theme, the A section. You repeat it. Then you go to a different place, the contrasting B section, called the bridge, and then you come back home to A. And that whole cycle just repeats, giving every musician a solid foundation to build their solos on. You know, people always ask jazz musicians, how do you all know where you are? How do you know when to stop and start? Well, as jazz pianist Rave Tessar says, form is the answer. It's crucial. They're all following that same map, even while they're exploring their own unique paths. And there's another powerful form, also built on that same back and forth, call and response. This one has deep roots in West African traditions, and it's literally a conversation in music. One person or group makes a statement, that's the call, and another person or group answers, that's the response. It's a form that's built for community, for pulling everyone into the music together. So let's pull all these threads together. We've looked at the grand architecture of a Beethoven symphony, the simple storytelling verses of a Bob Dylan song, the fiery improvisation of a jazz solo. And what do we see? We see the same pattern, over and over and over again. It all boils down to this: a simple, powerful, beautiful equation. Repetition plus contrast equals music. That's it. That's the secret language. It's the constant, satisfying dance between the familiar and the surprising. And this matters because once you start to actually hear form, you unlock a totally new level of listening. You start to understand that hidden language that makes music feel so deeply satisfying. You're not just hearing sounds anymore, you're hearing the shape of the sounds. And you realize that this fundamental principle connects every kind of music you love. So I'll leave you with a challenge. The next time you put on your favorite song, I don't care if it's hip-hop or country or classical or whatever, I want you to ask yourself this question. Don't just hear the beat or the lyrics. Listen for the architecture. Listen for the repetition and the contrast. What's the hidden shape of your favorite song?